Hello, colleagues and other guests for coming today. Let me show your presentation. Just a second. Here we go. During our presentation, you might come up with some questions, so please ask them after the presentation is finished so as not to interrupt the speakers. Thank you. This seminar is about geodatabases, development and integration of them specifically. My name is Nikita Bragin, and to start off, I would like to talk to you about our working project that is related to the topic. It is a web application that traces and displaces air pollution caused by flights. In order to develop such a difficult app, we made a few databases and integrated them with the website. We used Flask as a main framework for the web. We used Nginx on the server to get web and databases working. And to connect our Postgres database with Flask, we used Python library psycopg2. And now Maxim will tell you information about how it all works together, more specifically.
Well, here are several libraries which will be used in our work. Psycop2 and JSON will be used in both parts of our work, and Geodata, JSON to HTML and Flask in second one. However, immediately before visualization, I would like to stop on a step. What is important for functioning of the system? Information, which must be loaded into the database. There are lots of ways for filling database with data, but we would like to describe an automatical one. This way presupposes self-adding of data after collecting. Next slide, please. The main idea is to scan and count JSON files in a known directory and analyze them. Every useful value can be contained into its own variable, but it's very important to check data before saving. If the program faces inconsistency, we can set a default value which is regulated by features of sphere source of data. For example, an average plane has 2 engines, so we will set a number 2 as a default. The example can be seen on the right picture. Yes. Next slide, please. After packing data into variables, a query for adding every piece of data into database must be formed. Database may consist of many relations created for storing useful information gained by crawlers. So we should save data for each of them. On this order, they may create an array of strings. Every string contains a primary text of query, which can be supplemented by adding variables with data to the end. After forming this array of string, data may be sent to database. Program establishing connection with database, we can see it on the right picture. Executing query, for example, like in the picture, and close connection, adding every transaction. Now we can follow to the next step of our plan and represent data from database to a user. At the beginning, we should get data from database. Like in previous step, we use Python library psycop2 and receive a row of lists containing required data according to select query. Received data should be converted into JSON format by any convenient way, automatically by using Python libraries or by hands. On the right picture, you can see an automatical one. Once received JSON file, one required JSON file will be received, it must be shown to user, which requested data from database. On the stage of depicting data, a logic of visualization must be described. We may use a user-created library JSON to HTML, which converts JSON format into HTML language tables. Formed by this way, HTML table is sent to the rendering of an HTML page. Code of this page contains a variable of Geodata Python library. Variable can be placed by the object table. After that, the program renders the page, and the user may see all requested data on the screen. As the example we can see on the left bottom picture. So Nikita can continue.
What Maxim described just now is an example of a REST API based on Flask for Python 3, which stands for Representational State Transfer Application Public Interface. This is one of the ways to display information from your database on the web screen for the user on their request. REST API is not a protocol. It is more of an architecture style that is based on a few agreements. That's why REST doesn't have any official standards. But if you follow all the agreements, which are having get, post, put, delete methods in your API and using JSON every time you transfer some data, then you have a so-called RESTful API. It is an extremely popular format for developing microservices and public APIs because of the simplicity of development process, economy in terms of resources, and unnecessity for using add-ons. And also REST doesn't convert your data while transferring, which is probably not that safe, but it reduces the load of your server. And REST has some more disadvantages. For example, no specifications and ambiguity in data management practices. Good news is that we have at least one more option to manage our task about transferring data between website and database. And it is SOAP API, which stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. It is a protocol, as the name says. So it has an industry standard by W3C, strict specification, Microsoft support, and clarity. All the data in SOAP transfers using XML format. So any tiny message in SOAP is an XML document with envelope, header, body, and fold. This is a problem for parsing data because because of its complexity and resource consumption. So what implementation method should you use? It is necessary to consider the context of the implemented system and its limitations. Usually SOAP is used in large corporate systems with complex logic when clear standards are required, backed up by time. But if you are developing a public API and the interaction logic is largely covered by the four CRUD methods, then feel free to choose REST. It is more popular on the web. Yandex, Google, and others use it in their APIs. Moving on to another good thing of having an API, we can talk about using it to go public in order to monetize your product. First question that you should ask yourself is when it is profitable to open your API. If you understand that your data, content, or unique business logic can be useful to other companies and people, you can open the API. Once you understand that your APIs actually help your users' businesses development, you can offer access to the API for the fee. If you have a few users, you can grant access and collect the fee manually. And if there are a lot of them, you will most likely need an API management system. What is an API management system? In short, we can say that the purpose of the API management system is to turn the API into a product, so as to endow a purely technical entity with real business content and logic. Most API management systems can do the following: organize access to the API, define API usage policies, for example, competence of requests, their frequency and limits per unit of time, and also provides API documentation tools. Thank you for your attention. These are some interesting ideas that we learned during working on our project, and we will be developing it even further. And we will hope that we will see you on our next seminars on other topics related to our working project. Please ask your questions if you have them right now.
Thank you for presentation. One question, is this solution useful for different type of databases or only area monitoring basis?
No, it is a common solution. RESTful API is a common solution for working with all types of databases. You can work, for example, with Postgres, with Oracle, with other standards and formats. It is because, as I said, it is not a protocol. It is more of a architecture type. But speaking about SOAP, it gets a little bit more tricky because they have strict standards, and you would have to look through them to ensure.
Thank you so much. The other questions? There are no questions, as I understand.
Okay, if you don't have any questions, I hope that our seminar was at least a little interesting to you, and we hope to see you again if we'll be having this activity in the future. Thank you again for coming.
There are no questions. As I understand, that's it. Okay, thank you very much for interesting reports. And this seminar is finished. Please stop records and see you again.